Hello, everyone. So we are back again. So let me introduce our second speaker, Miss Andrea Bruno, who works as a lecturer and project manager at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. So Ms. Bruno will talk about the science behind a competent professional juggler. This webinar will focus on the path of a Portuguese student that started by getting involved with associations, including IPSF, and is now in Melbourne working in academia. It will illustrate that there is no single or right path, and there is several types of research and also science. And I would like to remind you that also after this webinar you will have the chance to ask the questions. So and now I will give the presenting role to you, Ms. Bruno, and you are ready to start.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I know that we are all over the world and into different parts of the world. I don't know who presented me. Was that Inês?
No. It was me, Dalia. Yes.
Dalia. Good. Thank you, Dalia. As we are all over the world, I am now here in Melbourne, so it is morning for me. So I do apologize for all of this early start. I would like to thank firstly to IPSF and to the European Regional Officer for this kind invite. I hope it would be useful for you guys. It's a bit of a mixture, and you'll see at the presentation why that I chose to try to make science into a competent professional juggler, and why competent and why professional juggler, I will tell you in a minute. To be fair, it is my first time I'm presenting a webinar sitting down, so I do apologize for this. It's quite weird not to completely see where the camera is, and so I'll try to go as I go along. I know that Miranda did a fantastic job. I just cut at the end, so well done. As a disclaimer, I am not representing any of my previous jobs or current jobs, so the views are my own, and I hope by the end you can do a lot of questions and try to have a global perspective of what could be science, or especially what could be research. So going through my presentation and a little bit about myself, so you know me a little bit. As Dalia mentioned, I was a previous IPSFer. It seems like a long time ago, to be fair, but it is true. I started, as most of you, interested in the global arena and interested in what opportunities we have for pharmacy and different aspects of pharmacy. I previously did some trampoline competition, swimming. I'm recently a kickboxer. It is true. It's a bit weird, but I do like it. Also doing a little bit of ballet, but love photography, love cinema, and I'm very keen on world traveling. And one of the things that I did forget to put there, that was in previous presentation, that crashed at 2:30 a.m. last night. As we all know, I've been there, and you probably have been there, doing the presentation last minute, and I hope it is okay for you guys now. But I did put 40 before 40, and what I tend to say is travel the world and see other cultures and see different aspects, and also be interested in the science and especially how pharmacy works on those countries. Is quite unique to have that perspective. So 40 before 40 is 40 countries before we turn 40. My previous was 30 before 30, but as I passed that line, I'm now trying to be more wise. Okay. So a little bit about different research or different aspects of research. I did Erasmus, and it was also through IPSF in a way that looked at literature and literature reviewing, which we do more and more during our degree. But at that time, we didn't do as much as we do now. So it was interesting to know the aspects of what is a literature review, what entails, and what can we get from previous articles that are online and that other researchers have done work. I will talk a little bit more about what I did as the PhD itself, because it's more about the research, the social aspect of research, not as much as in, I heard that Miranda talked about spec or mass spec and things like that, and mine is more about words and people, and it is different, but it is research. So I just want to give you a little bit of a hint. There is different opportunities and there's no right path or wrong. It's a path is unique. I did put some links to some of you that would like or want, as this is more towards the European Regional Office. I thought that I put Erasmus there, and also some of the volunteers aspect, and the PhD or research projects, or even studentships, which is interesting if you're looking for it, or even if you want to do different type of research. And what is research? Research is something like this. It's quite organized in a way, but chaotic still. So it is about coming up with a theory or evidence that you'd like to look at, generating your hypothesis, and then going towards looking at concepts, what you want to do, what type of selection you need to do, the study design, and then all of the sampling measures, controls, and collecting data, analyzing the data, and then the findings. And this is the most important aspect, is analyzing, but also disseminating and critically appraising your own aspect to the evidence. So this is just a hint. It's not. It's an example. There are plenty others. This is just one that I normally use. I've also added some reading if you're interested in this aspect, or if you're interested in this type of research. It's more about social research or health research or applied research, which is different. I'm going to talk now a little bit more about my PhD itself. And it had a part also with IPSF, which was quite interesting. And here it comes the part of the competent professional juggler. And why did I put competent in the title? It is because, not that I'm the most competent person, not at all. We're always learning, and I learn as I go along every day. But it is about the research that I did, which was on competencies, and the development of the global competency framework for FIP was part of my PhD. So what is competency? Competency is when you see an effective and persistent behavior. It is about the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, the beliefs and abilities that one have. But as you can see in the iceberg, you can see that you only see part of it, and all the knowledge and information that you're gaining also throughout our degree is what is the base of that behavior. So what we did with the global competency framework, we started looking at other aspects, other frameworks, other standards, other educational outcomes that had a little bit of competency, or more towards educational aspects of a pharmacist professional development and workforce development. And we did a very specific study, which is a content analysis and a thematic analysis of those documents. So we retrieved around 50 documents, and we based the global competency framework on 8 of them. And the aspect that I wanted to bring you is that it is about social research. So it is about looking at those documents and coming up with the themes that came across all of them, coming up with the core. And what we found throughout this project was that although we are different countries, we have different aspects in the practice, but at the core, pharmacists do the same, are more or less the same, and the knowledge that they need or to be able to perform better or to be able to give better health outcomes are the same. So we came up with this type of concept that divides the clusters. We called it clusters. It can be called themes. The clusters into 4 different clusters. One that it's focused only on public health and has that population aspect to it. Another one that focuses on pharmaceutical care and has the patient aspect where it's all about the medicines and the help assessment of those medicines. One is about organization and management, and that's the system focus. So it is the system that the pharmacist is included in, and we are part of a healthcare team, so it is important to know also some of it. And then you have the professional personal side, which is about your practice and what you can do and how you can improve. So we kind of divided into scientific knowledge and management knowledge, which is important to illustrate that a pharmacist is able to do lots of different things in lots of different areas. But the one thing that really unites us as pharmacists is the expertise on medicines, and we can never leave that aspect without. So here's just an example of the clusters and the competencies that are within the clusters and the behaviors. What we wanted with the Global Competency Framework was kind of like a roadmap or a guidance, and it is for other countries to look at it if they want, or other regions to look at it and to adapt into their own country. So it's not that this is one single model. It isn't. It is about helping others to then construct their own and to look at the opportunities they have and what could they include more. So I'll give you a few examples shortly about those aspects of the framework itself. For the aspect of validation, so what we did also throughout that process, and this is why it's a bit about science and research and more about the research that we did with people, or in terms of pharmacists and professional practitioners that were already in practice. We've asked them throughout those clusters, we asked them how relevant was those competencies or those behaviors to them in their current practice. And what we found was that mainly on the administrative or academic or industry side, there were mentioned that there wasn't relevance to some of the competencies, not that it wasn't completely relevant. All of them were relevant, but at a lower measure or a lower weighting. And that showed us that maybe we didn't do a good job in explaining what it was. So we went back, and actually the current version of the Global Competency Framework has 90% of agreement and validation, more than 80% in terms of saying that it is relevant and it is current, and it is a good thing. Okay. Oh, sorry. To give you the different view, I've just put 4 of the frameworks that have been published that were based on also on the GBCF, so on the Global Competency Framework. We have the RPS that I supported the reshaping of the frameworks that were there. So they already had a competency framework, and we just did, again, a little bit of research with focus groups, with participant engagement, with surveys, to make it more current and to make it national. The PSI, which is the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland, also did a project with me in terms of getting the results of the survey for Irish pharmacists, and then they developed the core competency framework for their pharmacists. I can tell you that, for example, the global competency framework overall is 4 clusters, and the PSI has 6. We have about 100 behaviors, and they have about 150 behaviors. So as you can see, it was adapted and it was adjusted towards them. I do know that the 4th one, and Miranda probably is smiling at the moment, it is about Croatia, and we did a project with Eva about some of the development for the students and also for practitioners. So that's a new thing that is still developing, and different projects, different works. Okay. So overall, these are the countries or schools that have used some of the research that we developed. And I've just shown you so you can see that the impact of the research can differ from time to time. And it is about the aspect of the research that you want to do, and the aspect of what is important. So what we did, or what was just a small bit that transformed into supporting others. So research and science go along hand in hand. And I know that most of my talk is about social aspects of the research, and I know another presenter will probably talk to you more about the social aspect, but I wanted to give you a little bit of the global perspective, so you have those two. Another research we did, and in collaboration with IPSF, was the Students' Learning Experience Questionnaire. We have started this actually a long, long time ago with Professor Ian Bates, and it was about maybe in 2004, something like that. And it had suffered some iterations, and also it had a lot of improvements to the questionnaire itself. In 2013, Naoko Arakawa also did some of improvement and joined together 2 different questionnaires, looking at how you, students, look at your degree, and also how do you tend to learn. So it is that aspect of what a questionnaire can actually bring and take to analysis and the data, the richness of data that comes up out of that. Going towards a little bit more global still, this is most of the work that we do, or that I did with IPSF, with FIP and the FIP education aspect of it, with the education development team. We always produced reports every year. These are some of the ones that we did, and I just wanted to illustrate the difference of having a questionnaire and then analyze it. So numbers and data and words can mean a lot. Just to give a little bit of attention, this was about workforce, and if you look to the circles and you see a really, really small dot, that's Somalia, and it means that they only have 2 pharmacists per that amount of population. Looking at South Africa and then Malta. Malta is the country who has more pharmacists per population. Because as you can see already, there's a disparity in terms of density and in terms of numbers of pharmacists and then pharmacies, if you look on the right-hand corner of top of the screen. So it is a mix of data, a richness in data. If you look towards the bottom, you can see that the world map is illustrating the types of the degree that exists around the world. So if it's more about practice, if it's science with practice, or if it's more about pharmacy practice, and the different colors are also there. Again, looking at the distribution among the major areas within pharmacy, so it's community, hospital, industry, or regulatory, or even others that may include things like academia and marketing and all medical writing and all of those different aspects. You can see that across the regions it differs, and we have a tendency more to community because it is our patient facing aspect of our profession, but it is a good understanding of how practice actually is. This is just to illustrate, this was the report last year, so we did a lot of case studies and tried to measure the impact of some of the tools and some of the frameworks that we produced at FIP. And it's quite interesting storyline about, we started looking at a needs-based educational model and then going through developing all of the different concepts and themes and aspects. So it is, IPSF also has a chapter, for example, in one of the reports, IPE, if I recall correctly. So it is about engaging and collaboration. And the research aspect of it is about looking at the data, coming up with some themes and some topics, and then analyzing that aspect or those aspects. This is just an overview of the countries that we have in that final report, which is transforming our workforce, and which tools or resources have they used in their country or in their school to improve or to support the practice or the workforce development that they are doing. Another aspect of the things that I normally do, or used to do, was we would get international rotation students, and in this case it was from St. Louis College of Pharmacy. In the office we have different, we actually have some interns from IPSF as well, so it is a rotation aspect of the internship, and it is about, depending on how long you have. And I'm just giving you these examples because some of these students actually developed, or with the support of the team, did a literature review for one of the chapters, and those were included in these reports. So it is a different aspect to the research. It is a different aspect to what we think or perceive as science on the onset, but it is a broader and valid construct of the different aspects of research. Going towards what I did last year, and it's still ongoing, we developed a competency framework for the different areas of advanced practice in Portugal. So I was the development lead for them until January of this year, and it has a different aspect to what I've shown you with the global competency framework, but it is based on the competencies that are required for that advanced levels of practice within those areas of speciality. In this case, the one that I'm going to present, it is in Portuguese, apologies for that, but it is one of them, and I think it's the hospital one. Another group that we were working on about this construct of competencies and what do they mean and how can we help and support the pharmacists to grow and to perform better is with the European Association of Hospital Pharmacists, and we're trying to develop a competency, a common training framework that is connected to the aspects of having a structured approach within Europe, and I'll give you some of the drafts. The consultation will come up next next month, I think. We're still in February, so we'll come up next month, and it will be, if you're interested, it will be good and you want to participate, the link is there and I'll show you in a minute. A different project that I'm also involved, it is about the change of the antiretroviral therapy for the stable patients to receive from the hospital to the community pharmacy. And what do we mean by this? We're developing a pilot study in Portugal that the stable patients with HIV and other normal levels have the possibility of collecting their therapy in the community pharmacies that they choose. So instead of collecting from the hospital and going to the hospital every month or every 3 months, be able to do that closer to home. So again, this is a different type of research, but the basis is still the same. It's about questionnaires, or it's about focus groups or content analysis or thematic analysis, and doing the literature review at the beginning to make sure that we are aligned to what's currently available in the published articles and what is possible. So just to give you, these are just examples, and I'm happy to take more questions if you are keen to know a little bit more. Again, this is the EHP one, and it's a draft version, so it is not the final, but this is the version that will go towards the hospital consultation. Sorry, I'm just trying to make the link visible, but you will be able to see the presentation anyway. Another aspect that I want to bring you to your attention is the workforce development goals. FIP recently had a conference in Nanjing, China, and it was the first global conference on education and on education of pharmacy and pharmaceutical science, which was unique. We had different outcomes coming from the conference. We had 3 main documents. One of them is the workforce development goals, and this is aligned to the work that WHO is doing and also that UN is doing. So we took the opportunity to look at the sustainable development goals from them and create ones that are unique to pharmacy with targeted aspects to it. And as you can see, some of them focus on academia, some of them focus on the personal aspect, and some of them focus on the system as well. So it is about looking at the workforce as a whole, as a team member, and making sure that we are aligned to the different current policies that are in place. And I know that you'll have Tana Woology, I think, tomorrow, and she will be able to speak more about the WHO efforts also. I'm almost at the end of the presentation. I wanted to put that aspect of the degree here that we currently have in the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science in University of Melbourne. This is new, it's quite unique. It is an active learning approach, so it is different from anything that has been done before. And it's a lot of engagement with the students throughout the year. It's one of the unique things is all of the course or disciplines or units, depending on where you are in the world and how you call it, are integrated, and all of them make an integrated approach to the patient and to the disease and to the medicine. So it is about how then everything connects together. So more information on that. There's a very cool video that I just showed you the screenshot, but if you want to know more, it's a different aspect. Just some take-home message, and I know that I'll probably have a few questions, or I hope to have a few questions at the end of the webinar, but I want to know if anyone can guess which molecule it is. To be fair, it's not completely accurate. I tried to do it last night, so it's supposed to represent a molecule, and I'm going to try to give you a guess in a short while. To finish, one of the things that I like to say when we talk about research and when we talk about science is this quote: "The outcome of any serious research is to make two questions grow where one question grew before." And what do you mean by this is, if you go through the process of research, you will find that you may have one question, but once you dig in, you will have lots more, and then you'll have to focus. And the difficulty will be to choose what you want to do and what you want to pursue when you just had one question at the beginning. To say that science and practice are not two different entities, they complete each other, and you can do research in both, so giving you that aspect of research. And also what we call what I said AFB manifesto is just because it was something that I came up with, but it is what I wanted for you to take home is there has been a shift, there has been a change, there is more a clinical aspect to our degree, there is more patient focus. So we need to focus on humanitarianism. And this means that we're all humans, regardless of the background, the culture, the gender, regardless of all of that. So it is about humans and about us. Through medicines and pharmaceutical care, and this aspect comes more and more and grows more and more, but also to be able to be empowered by a transformed workforce with new skills, with improved skills, and with the aspect of growth. And I will end now. Hopefully you have some questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bruno, for your wonderful lecture and your time. We know it's early morning in Australia, so we are thankful that you were able to join us. Now, just a reminder for participants that you can run down your questions, and do not forget to send organizers only. Until then, we have the first question about the workforce development goals that were accepted during the FIP conference in Nanjing in China.
Yes.
Something more to say about that, and how can students also contribute individually to that vision?
So the workforce development goals that were approved in China, as you mentioned, is it's about setting some targets and setting some tangible outcomes that we would like to achieve. I encourage you to look at them to see what you can participate. If you're keen to do something, so if you're keen to have that research aspect, the education development team is also very keen on growing their constituencies. So it is about supporting each other, how we grow and we want to achieve more. The aspect that is about the students, and we did have representation from IPSF during the Congress, which was very useful. So the students were also included in the process of development. So you had a voice and you have a voice now. Look at what you can change in your own practice once you become a practitioner. And these are aspects that you can do in your day-to-day life, as well as trying to see within your community how can you contribute. Would that be a response that you're looking for?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you very much for your answer. And now I see a few more questions. So the first one is, how long do these researches last, and how many people work on them? Just choose some of your ones you mentioned.
So, for example, my PhD, I worked on it together with my supervisors, so Professor Ian Bates and Professor Tina Brock. It took 3 years and a half, so the PhD normally takes about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. and involved a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, and a lot of practitioners that wanted to participate in such research. The research that we do at a smaller scale with the FIP education reports tend to take up to a year. Normally it takes between 6 months to 9 months in the actual collecting the data, analysis of the data, and then the writing up. It is about a year because we have to plan what we want to do and in the themes and topics that are current and are trendy during that year that we want to present at the FIP congresses. We tend to have one lead or one professor or others that have interest in that topic, and they become with a team, and that differs from report to report, so I can't really tell you the exact number of people, but it involves at least 3 people taking the lead on the report themselves, the report itself in a way, and then all of the volunteers or whoever wants to present case studies. If you go through some of the reports, we have divided into chapters. They're small reports, they're not very big. Some of them are big because they have more data, but overall they tend to have a description of the data and a chapter on that, and then a chapter with case studies on that topic or on the tools and resources that have been developed. So overall, we are talking about, depending on the report, we had some that had maybe 50 people involved, plus around 102 countries that responded to the questionnaire, to the last year, which we had about 150 overall people, volunteers, I mean, in terms of writing some of the parts. Does that clarify?
I believe it does.
Okay.
Thank you for your answer. We have one more question. How did your experience in IPSF help you in your career?
It helped a lot. And what we mean by it helped a lot. And I know most of you are students and are keen to do more and to grow more. It was at IPSF that I got my connections, and it is through IPSF that I have one of a few of my best friends scattered around the world. So those connections are unique. The network that you create with your peers and also mentors that you come across at the congresses, at presentations, at things like that, then become your network. And that's how I found IPSF supported. It was because I got involved in IPSF and I started to know, to have that little bug of the international aspect, that I came out of my comfort zone. I started going to congresses. I started meeting people. That's where I met my supervisors. So I met Professor Ian Bates in one of the IPSF congresses. And then I'm here because of that, because I started to look at a different view on pharmacy and on the degree itself throughout my experience. And it came, to be fair, this is my first job that started this month, so I've started brand new on the 1st of February, that it's not related to associations. So ever since I graduated from Portugal in 2007, I then started doing my PhD connected to FIP. I was in FIP until January, so until last month, and in the association in Portugal, but I went through the UK CPA, which is the United Kingdom Clinical Pharmacists Association, and also the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain. So I've always been connected to association, and I've always been interested in more about the professional aspect, the development of the professionals themselves, rather than other things. And that led me to where I'm now, more on a lecture aspect, but also on a project management. So when I say a professional juggler. It's because what I wanted to bring to you was there's no right or wrong path. We are unique, and each and one of you are unique. And being able to, and wanting to know more, and being part of this webinar, or the recording, it is the interest that you're showing. So my message to you is find what makes you unique, what makes you different from the others, that special thing. But don't forget also the degree, where you come from, that you're experts in medicines, and that's what makes you a pharmacist, and that's what makes you you, and the interest that you have. So it is about that broad aspect that you can do anything you would like to, and even if you're not expecting. And there were things that, and it's not wrong to try different things and say, I didn't like that, I don't want to do that, I want to do something else. That's a learning, and that's something that you can take and say, okay, now I want to do this, or I want to do that. And I wasn't, throughout the experience and throughout IPSF, when I started and went into the congresses and do that, I wanted to be a community pharmacist. That's why I went to the degree. And at the end, I ended up in London, moved to Portugal, and now in Australia. So it is about making that a leap of faith in what you'd like to do and try it. And there's no right or wrong answer.
Thank you for your answer. It was really inspiring to hear all of you said. So thank you again. And we have one more question. Sure. So as we saw, you are involved in pharmacy education. So how do you see the future, and what ideas do you have for the improvement, and what would you like to implement? Some of your
some of my thoughts. Well, I think if you look at the growth that has happened in the past, and we can always learn from the past, but also look into the future, the roles of the pharmacists are becoming much more towards clinical, but also as part of a healthcare profession. So in terms of education, you get your base from the degree, and then throughout practice, so in your workplace, you will learn quite a lot as you go along as well. So what I'm trying to say, in a sense, is the degree, it's what makes you, what gives you the tools to then go out and build the house in that aspect. So, and it has changed in the past. And if you look at Europe, and if you look at how Bologna also changed some of the degrees to make it be able to be mobile, to be able to be more versatile, to be able to work where you want, or to do part of your degree in Portugal and then part of your degree in a different country. And that never happened before, so that's unique. And now that you're at least in Europe, you're the aspect of the master, so the degree is more recognized. It is a higher degree in that aspect of what, for example, I had a few years ago. But it is the basis of, we continue to improve. I can see most of the faculties that I've worked with that keep on trying to change some bits in the curricula to make sure that they're trying to graduate the future pharmacists. And that's a process, that's an evolving process. So, for example, here in Australia, they're doing something completely different and unique. This is the first year. School just started this week. So this week is the induction week that we started. And it is a different integrated approach. So I see that universities will become more and more towards educating the future pharmacists and the skills that you need, that you're ready for practice once you come out of uni.
Thank you for your answer, we have following question. So we are trying to implement a postgraduate study in clinical pharmacy in my country in order to expand our pharmaceutical education in clinical skills a bit more. If there's any framework you can recommend in that field of working group, we could ask for some advice.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know which country you're talking about, but I'm happy if Dali then sends you my email and I'll liaise with you directly. But what I can say is if it's more clinical, there are a lot of frameworks. The competency framework also has the clinical aspect that you can check if it is practice or not within your country, and then build upon the work that you already do in your country. So what I wanted to say is that postgraduate presentations or sorry, postgraduate degrees are very good because then they can fill in the gap of what we've learned in the degree itself. But there are a lot of frameworks, there are a lot of people that I can put you in contact with, and some of the map that I showed with all the little dots have, because of those connections, because of those collaborations. So within the FIP and the FIP education aspect, so within the education development team, we have several leads looking at competence, advanced practice, interprofessional education, and all of those have that aspect. And continuing professional development as well. So it has a little bit on all of them. But it is depending on which country you're talking and what would you like to develop further. But I'm happy to help.
It was Austria, well, the country which was interested, but I will forward the email address of yours and you can speak with questionnaires. Sure. Thank you for your answer. We have one more question. What has been very challenging in your journey and how did you overcome that, especially when it comes to international engagement through IPSF and FIP?
So some of the challenges that you can come across is learning more about the people themselves and being empathetic and also being knowledge about who you're talking to and how you're talking to. So one of the greatest challenges was maybe trying to bring people together to do a project or to do one particular aspect or theme or topic, whatever you want to call it. And it is about, they're all different. We all have different characteristics. We all have different ideas. And one of the hardest things is to make consensus out of that. And it's a process, and you learn every time you do it, and every time you present, and every time you do it in a regular basis, you start to be aware of certain things that you weren't before, and culturally aware of the different backgrounds, the different cultures, the different aspects of working in an intercultural federation in a way. I think that's one of the highest learning curves that I had when I went to IPSF and when I started doing this type of job. It is because you'll meet all sorts of different people, and you have to learn how to work with all of them. And my previous work was based on volunteers and trying to get them to engage and to participate and to write stuff. And that's the hard part. And then once you build the trust with that person, it makes it easier. So I think that was one of the aspects that I learned more.
Thank you very much for your answer. We have a few more questions, so I will ask what kind of challenges lays ahead of you now at your new position?
I think it's because it's new and it's unique and it has never been done before. The people that worked on this new degree have been working on the degree for about 5 years as a concept, and 2 years ago it started as a go for and do that and change the whole curriculum. I think it is one of the challenges is how to make it work and how to make it work for the students. And this is all about active learning. So it is about you becoming, or as a student, becoming more engaged in your learning, and how do you learn and how do you go and seek more information. So that's the challenge that I'm going to face in a way. It is a good challenge. I don't see it as a negative. It's different from what I did before, but it is about project managing in one aspect and then doing a little bit of lecturing on other aspects, which I want to bring the global perspective into the degree itself. So it's a bit of mixing both worlds that I did before, but to be able to have maybe not an impact, but to have an aspect of novelty in the team itself. And it's a great team, so I'm looking forward to start doing more and more.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And the last question, we are celebrating the women and girls in science. Something to say as a successful woman, any closing statement?
Sure. Not sure if I'm a successful woman, if I can consider myself a successful woman, but it is, I'm very honored that I was able to do this for you. And it isn't about just women, it's about all of us, and it's about human to human. It's talking a lot that women need equality, but also equality means that you're the right person for the right job and that you want. So don't be afraid to go for things, to show yourself in terms of be brave and try to conquer other aspects that you're not so keen or that you aren't thinking. Be humble, but be brave. And I know these are two different aspects, but don't do things because you think you're not right for it, or you're a woman, or even you're a man. It is about, if you like it, if you're on a challenge, if you want to go for it, it is about all of us. And it's empowering yourself to do different things. And in my journey, or in my juggler life, I wasn't expecting to be where I am. And I began the degree with one idea, and 10 years later, I'm across the world doing something completely different that I would never expect. But it is about your journey. It is about you and how you can make it work. Seek mentors, seek other peers, help each other, and create your own network. That's maybe one of the key messages. And use IPSF as much as you can, because then once you're out, the friends that you made throughout that year or throughout those years that you were connected, it will stay, and they will stay, and they will go throughout your life. And that's unique, and you have that.
Thank you once more for your all the answers you gave us, and thank you for a wonderful lecture, and for being able to join us on these webinar sessions. And now at the end, I will ask Luca to turn on the microphone and close the session. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both speakers. It was excellent, very enjoyable. Thank you to Dalia for moderating the sessions so nicely and efficiently. And of course, thank you all for coming tonight. If you enjoyed tonight, and I'm sure you did, join us again tomorrow. We will be beginning at 7 p.m. GMT +1. And we can promise you 2 more very, very educational and motivating webinars, and we are looking forward to your presence tomorrow as well. So thank you once again to everyone.